Hello, welcome to Unit 2, Lesson 4, the Algebra of Functions. So in this video, we're going to talk about the sum, difference, product, and quotient of two functions. So you'll see it written as f plus g, f minus g, f times g, sometimes f divided by g. And so all of those are just talking about f of x, which is the function of x, then g of x, which is a second function of x. So you can see my notes right there below for f plus g, f minus g, f times g, and f divided by g if you want to go ahead and add those into your notes. So let's go ahead and look at some examples. All right, so here we're given f of x as negative 2 times x plus 3 and g of x as x squared minus 5. So what we're going to do is go through and work these problems. So first off, we have f plus 3 plus g of 3. So what I want to start out by doing is finding f of 3. So f of 3 is we're going to take 3 wherever we see an x and we're going to plug it in. So that's negative 2 times 3 plus 3, which is negative 6 plus 3, which is negative 3. Then we need to do g of 3, which is 3 squared minus 5, which is 9 minus 5, and 9 minus 5 gives us 4. And then we just need to do f of 3 plus g of 3. And so that's negative 3 plus 4, which negative 3 plus 4 is a positive 1. So this equals 1. All right, let's do f of 1 minus g of 1, f of 1. And so we're still going to be plugging into this f function or plugging into the g function, whatever we're asked to do. So f of 1 is negative 2 times 1 plus 3. So that's negative 2 plus 3, which is 1. G of 1, so that would be 1 squared minus 5. 1 squared is 1, minus 5 gives us a negative 4. So then we need to do f of 1 minus g of 1. So that's 1 minus a negative 4. 1 minus a negative 4 becomes 1 plus 4, which is 5. So this equals 5. All right, here it says do g of 1 minus f of 1. So sometimes you're given f of 1 minus g of 1, sometimes you're given g of 1 minus f of 1, but we've already done the math up here, so this is just going to be negative 4 minus f of 1, which we defined as 1, and so negative 4 minus 1 gives us negative 5. So that's negative 5 here. If you're doing f of 1 minus g of 1, you're going to get 5. G of 1 minus f of 1, you get negative 5. So of course, they're going to be opposites of each other because you're subtracting one from the other, and then you're subtracting the second one from the first one. All right, now we're asked to do f plus g of x. And so here, as you see, x, there's no number. We're just adding these two together. So we're going to start with f of x and then add g of x. So take negative 2x plus 3 plus your g of x, which is x squared minus 5. Simplify that, you get x squared minus 2x, no like terms, and then we have a 3 minus 5, which gives us a negative 2. So this equals x squared minus 2x minus 2. All right, and the next one says f divided by g of x. So this is just the fraction. You could see it as f of x divided by g of x. So we're going to take our f of x, whichever is on top, put it on the top of your fraction, negative 2x plus 3. And then on the bottom, we're going to put our g of x, which is x squared minus 5. And then this next one, we are told to do f of g of x minus 1. So we've already done the work up here. So all we're going to do is just take what we did in E and plug in the -1 to that, and then we'll get our answer here for f. So let's take this -1 and plug it in. So now we have -2 times -1 plus 3. And then we have -1 squared minus 5. So with -2 times the -1, that gives us 2, plus 3 gives us 5. 2 plus 3 is 5. And then on the denominator, we have -1 squared, which is 1, minus 5, which is a -4. So here we have 5 divided by -4, which is a -5/4. All right, let's look at some more examples. All right, so here we're given an f of x and g of x, and we're asked to determine the sum, difference, and product of those two functions. And then we're also asked to get the domain of them. So first, let's look at the domain of this one. Well, this one is all real numbers. Because it's linear, it will be all real numbers. This g of x is also all real numbers because it's quadratic, and quadratic equations are always all real numbers because you can take any number and square it, any real number and square it. All right, so let's look at the sum. So if we look at this, we have 7x minus 4 plus x squared because we're doing f plus g of x. So we add them together, so that gives us x squared plus 7x minus 4. So this is also quadratic, so this has a domain of all real numbers. So you'll either write it as all real numbers, or some prefer it in interval notation. You'll see it -infinity to infinity, just depending on which format you're asked to give it in. All right, let's look at difference. So difference would be f minus g of x. So we start with f, 7x minus 4, and subtract g of x, which is x squared. So now we have -x squared plus 7x minus 4. Again, this is quadratic, so domain will be all real numbers or -infinity to infinity. Okay, and now we've done sum, difference. Let's look at product. So that would be fg, or f times g, of x. And so that would be 7x minus 4 times x squared. And so that gives us 7x to the third minus 4x squared. And that's cubic, and we can cube any number. The only restrictions we're going to have are, I'll put it in a different color, is if you have a square root of x, its restriction on its domain is x has to be greater than or equal to 0, because you can't take the square root of a negative number and get a real number. So that's for square root functions. Or if you have it for a rational function, your domain will be x cannot equal 0. So if you ever get a square root, put it greater than or equal to 0. If you ever get an x in the denominator or whatever, if this is like x plus 3, then just set that denominator equal to 0. So this is cubic, so the domain is all real numbers. All right, let's look at another example. All right, so here we have a rational function, and just like I mentioned before, the domain of this one, you take that denominator and you set it equal to 0, so x cannot equal 0. And this one right here is quadratic, and we can square any number and take away from 4, so it's all real numbers. Okay, let's look at the sum. So if we add these together, you get 2 over x plus x squared minus 4. And so the only restriction again is here we have x as the denominator. And so all we're asked to do is find the domain of this. We don't really even need to simplify this. We'll just say the domain here is x cannot equal 0. All right, let's look at the difference. So you have 2 over x minus x squared minus 4, which would be 2 over x minus x squared plus 4. And again, only restriction here is x cannot equal 0. All right, now let's do product. Okay, so we get 2 over x times x squared minus 4. So when we multiply this, we can put it over 1 and then distribute that 2, and we get 2x squared minus 8 over x. And so again, we still have x in the denominator. So it's all real numbers except x cannot equal 0. All right, that's all I have for you today. Happy studying.